Well, good morning and welcome to Let's Play, where we play games in my Steam and GOG library. And for the month of March, we are going on an Arctic expedition to see if we can survive the Pale Beyond. The game, by Bellular Games, recently released and is on Steam for $19.99. And I'm so happy. It was a very good price point to choose. We've already done the setup, we've done the interview, so we don't have to go through that again because it was exactly the same as when I tried out the demo. So, let's dive in. It's been a month. It's been 1 month since I signed on, and 1 week since we've set sail aboard the Temperance. I'm told the waters will get warmer as we pass the hemisphere before they turn colder. But I've never been on a ship like this before. A technical marvel. Elegant machinery expertly weaved throughout one of the fastest hardwood ships of its day. Reborn for this mission, breathing again with life, she's simply magnificent. As for its master, he's mostly kept to his quarters so far. I trust the captain. The captain seems a trustworthy sort. There we go. Experience alone justifies his position. There aren't many who make out the other end of naval military service with all their limbs, let alone his vigor. I've heard the rumors, drinking, desertion. There's probably a good reason he's dressed in antiques. I do find myself warming to the man. There are now 22 of us, including the captain. Our next port will be our last before we enter the ice, to pick up the remaining 4 members of the crew, the scouting team. Hunt is also keen to work out a deal on a pack of sledding dogs. I've sailed with worse. We came across all kinds trading with merchants, but rarely this split. I can't help but wonder who's footing the bill for all this. Certainly not the captain. Such exquisite modifications to the ship mustn't have come cheap. I intend to investigate further. One of Hunt's sailors approaches. Captain wants you at the helm. I'll head there now. He leaves. You ascend the stairs to the stern and find the old captain manning the helm of the ship. Ah, Robin, lovely day for it, isn't it? It is indeed, Captain. Indeed. It's days like these I make sure to do my share of the sailing. He winks. Let him continue. He thinks for a moment before stepping aside and stretching out a wrinkled hand. Did you ever take the helm in the merchant navy, or were you stuck carrying crates? Here, why don't you have a try? Are you sure? Yes, this is important. Take the wheel. You grip the wheel of the ship and feel the weight of the waves in your arms. The memory in your muscles rear themselves as you begin to move in time with the ship and the wind. Easy. There, you have it. The captain pats you on the back. Fantastic. Now try to get a sense of where we are. Get some perspective. Peaceful, isn't it? Desolate is more like it. Panning and zooming speeds can be adjusted in the setting menu. He takes the wheel back from you. I think I'll drink the morning in a little longer. Would you mind preparing my quarters for the day's work? There's much to do. Okay. A pristine furnished tub secured to the floor, a luxury to be had on the ice. A classical painting depicting sailors doing battle with a kraken. An ode to an old folk story known to all Captain Seamus. Or was it Hamish? Hamish. On the desk you make out a variety of papers, notes, and maps, as well as a sealed letter with a stamp you recognize as the mark of the Apperton Tinning Company. The desk itself is suspended with ropes to keep it safely in place. It's actually kind of a cool way of doing things. And I think that's it. You take a seat at the end of the room. The captain joins you. Now let's run through our provisions before taking requests. To start, there's 23 souls signed on to this expedition, ourselves included. That's 16 free to be assigned to tasks if they aren't already. The rest are deployed to their permanent stations. You're only able to deploy crew who you have discovered. They must be in good health and not otherwise deployed to another post. We'll be picking up the scouting crew at the next port. The lot of us also seem to be in good spirits. The expedition will end, tearing itself apart if you end the week with no decorum left. We've enough provisions for at least 6 months in case of emergency. If you cannot afford the minimum food rations at the end of a week, crew will become malnourished. Unless cured, the malnourished state will develop into scurvy, a severe status effect that prevents crew from working, eventually killing them at the end of a week. And more than enough fuel to see us there and back again. Colder temperatures will increase the minimum fuel required at the end of a week. If you cannot afford the minimum fuel, crew will become freezing. Unless cured, the freezing status will develop into frostbite, a severe status effect that prevents crew from working, eventually killing them at the end of a week. The sledding dogs, well, they're still a matter of negotiations. Dogs will be needed to send sledding teams out to gather resources on the ice. Sending hunts out further requires a greater amount of dogs. They will rest and become available between the weeks. Now, on to work. A sailor enters. We found a stowaway in the lower hold. Bring them in. Another sailor enters leading a young man by their side. You know, you're not the first stowaway I've had. The captain studies them further. You know where we're heading, don't you? I do, sir. The ice. Did you know that before you climbed inside that crate? I did, sir. Ha! How old are you? You're hardly a useful pair of hands. Not true. I can pull my weight, sir. Do you know your jaboom from your sprint? I do. I learned it all from my da. Your da? He's Ward's son. Followed him on board back in the city. What should we do with him, Captain? Well, Shaw. Hunt eyes you up. You're first mate. What should we do with him? I'd keep them aboard. Hunt squints. Why? You need all the help you could get. This young man wants to help. I'd say we let him. All right, boy, consider yourself part of the crew. Be sure to keep your nose clean and follow orders. I will. Thank you, sir. Captain, not sir. Aye, Captain. The stowaway joins the 2 sailors below deck, now a member of the crew. Well, it seems the litter has a new runt. I hope the rest won't mind sharing their rations. What of the father? I doubt he intended for this to happen. We'll keep an eye on them both. I suppose you're right. Well, that matter sorted. Have you agreed upon my conditions? To the point, eh? Shaw, this is Lady Cordell. Cordell is here to provide us with the kennel of hounds for the sleds. And our agreement was that she would train them up until we part ways at the nearest island, but you neglected to inform me that you were bringing my dogs through the Pale Passage. I had no intention of sending the pack to its death. You seem to have good faith in this expedition. It's one thing to ask for my whole kennel, it's another to drag them into the ice to chase a myth. Never before has a buyer been so dishonest. And never before has a seller made such strong demands. Lady Cordell? A moniker given to me by the locals of the city, on account of her vernacular. I find it odd that you seem to have researched me as much as you have my kennel. I like to know who I'm negotiating with. Regardless, Shaw. She demands we allow her to come along on the expedition as a member of the crew. None on this ship have the experience and familiarity with dogs that I possess. If you're taking them to such a brutal location, they will need me to guide them if they have any chance of survival. The humans on board too, of course. Of course. You can see my dilemma, Shaw. We've just accepted a stowaway. Bringing on another member of the crew is a risk, but our hands may be tied. Your thoughts? I don't see the harm in having an expert on the sled dogs. A good point, Shaw. He turns to her. This deal is already to your benefit. Do you have anyone on board with extensive training in the management and ruling of dogs? Your sleds are useless if you can't control the dogs efficiently enough to haul them. And I would like to ensure my dogs are treated properly. Welcome aboard, Cordell. Your knowledge should prove valuable. Invaluable. I'll have a room prepared for you below deck. No need. You'll find me in the forecastle with the dogs. She leaves. I hope I'm not making mistakes, Shaw. Now that that's all settled, I have one more errand for you to run. Could you grab the Stoke brothers and order them to meet me up deck after dinner? Hefty lads, red hair. You couldn't mistake them for another. And the Stoke brothers? Who are they? You haven't met all the crew yet? The Stokes have been serving me for years. They'll be down on the middle deck. In the meantime, you should grab a copy of the crew manifest and get acquainted with more of the crew. Okay. Upon closer inspection, you make out the ship's photographer, Kasha Belford, balanced on the ship's mast with her camera, lining up a photo. I think there was supposed to be some dialogue before that. Wait for her to finish. Snapping a shot, she clambers down, only noticing you on her landing. Oh, Officer Shaw. It's about time I met the first officer of this ship. Kasha Belford. Nice to meet you, Kasha. I suppose there was some sort of rule against what I was doing up there. Deepest apologies, but sometimes there's a shot you just cannot pass up. An accomplished photographer, Kasha Belford won the Fentler Prize, the highest honor in journalism, for her work covering plague outbreaks and riots in the capital. It came as a surprise to many that such a reputable journalist would take such an interest in this expedition. There was scarcely any chance of Hunt or the benefactor turning her away. You expected someone of her accolades to be older, more experienced. This is likely her first time on the sea like this. Her compliments surely outweigh her youth. Inexperience is a matter of interest, but her accolades speak for themselves. The cold game. Picture that as a header. Let her continue. For the piece on this voyage, I'm trying to come up with a snappy name. Nobody will read it if the title sounds like the work of an amateur. I'm not the creative type. I'm sure you'd know better. Kasha tilts her head and grits her teeth, holding an inner debate with herself. Maybe not. How about Hunt's Incredible Voyage? Too fantastical? I suppose I'll find the right name when the time comes. I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Apologies. I'm just a little excited. I've never been on a voyage like this. I suppose in your experience, the open ocean is the home of the mundane. Though I suppose you've never traveled this far south on the merchant lines. Oh, you have that right. That's a shame. Looking out on that open ocean, I don't know how anyone could find it dull. It's no wonder the great explorers like Kurt Darling would always come back to it. That reminds me, he'll be joining us at the next port. I should get his picture at some point. Kasha holds up her camera with a sense of pride before holding it up to her face. Stand still, Shaw. Please warn me before doing that. Oh, sorry. It's for the manifest Hunt wanted me to put together for you. She hands you an annotated document. Here it is, the crew manifest. It's a work in progress. The scout teams are to join us at the next port, and the captain's forbidden me from the boiler room. If you could ask the others to get their portraits taken, I'd be very grateful. Don't want to leave anyone out. I'll see what I can do. I'll not disturb you of your work any further, officer. I have a few more shots I want to get before the sun lowers anyway. Safe shots, officer. Don't worry. You leave her to her work. She is cute. You spot a large man with a youthful gait carrying a heavy crate over his shoulder with relative ease. Oh, you're Officer Shaw. He gives a bright, warming smile. Two Johns. That's what they call me. I'm sure you'll get your nickname later. Two Johns attempts to offer a handshake, but loses control of the crate. He struggles before firmly holding it in place with both hands. Maybe later. Work awaits. I have added John to the manifest. So we need to go below deck. And we need to go to the mid deck. You find yourself almost knocking over a man carrying a heavy pot. Careful, careful. You almost got drenched in broth. Apologies, I'm in a rush on a request for a Hunt. From Hunt? Is there an issue with the ship? No, he just wanted me to find the Stoke brothers for a meeting. Not surprised. Those two are the only ones who know what's going on aboard this bloody ship. You hear a roar from the other side of the door. Oi, what's holding you up? The cook shakes his head with a smile and chuckles slightly to himself. He grabs a large pot and prepares to make his way to the hungry crew before turning his head to you. If you don't mind, could you carry the tray of biscuits behind me? Carry the tray. You grab the plate and follow the cook out the door to the table where the crew are waiting with bated breath. Upon the cook's arrival, the sailors let out a rowdy cheer, the ship's cooks placing the broth upon the table. Trust me, fellows, this one is worth the wait. The cook speaks with a tone of pride as he ladles the broth into the bowls of the crew. Oi, one at a time, you animals. Ward, you're awful handsy for only one arm. Piss off, Junior. Got some bread here, too. Grab it fast before Tucker beats you to it. The crew laughs and are merry as Junior guides you back through the kitchen. We weren't properly introduced. Robin Shaw, right? I've been keeping track of all the new crew. Yorn Stokes, but no one calls me that. You'll hear them all call me Junior. You should do the same. No idea why Hunt picked someone he's never worked with at first, mate. But you seem the helpful sort. Glad to have you aboard. You seem popular. Well, you know what they say about the hand that feeds. Besides, half the crew I've known for years. You don't spend that much time on a ship of folk without learning all about them. Well, Hunt wished to see you as soon as possible. Ah yes, good old Hunt. Never a rest on this ship, let me tell you. Especially when Hunt takes a liking to you. Call the crew for dinner. The crew have their meal. It passes in relative silence. The crew return to their posts. The hammocks are unfurled in preparation for the evening. Twilight falls. So, okay. So, I guess the mess hall turns into crew quarters at night. Interesting. Over dinner, you overhear the newly picked up stowaway speaking with a one-armed man. But, you're lucky Hunt didn't throw you overboard. Half a mind to do that myself. Come on, I'm here to help. Better know that involves work. Don't expect special treatment. I won't. You're an impossible child, Timmy. And Doug Ward has been added to the manifest. Anything we can look at up here? Well, we can go look at the ocean. As you look over the railing out to the ocean, a wisp of smoke flies past your face. You turn to examine and spot a sailor with a pipe in his mouth and a sheet of paper in his hand, overlooking the stirring wet waters. Smoking sailor. Looking at something? Any spare tobacco? I don't share. Tashi. After introducing himself, Tashi falls silent and begins to read the letter. Trying to draw conversation from him may be similar to extracting teeth. Vern Sheridan added to the manifest. Well, not the most talkative fellow, but at least we met him. You spot Templeton looking out into the sunset. As you approach, he turns to you and nods. Ah, Officer Shaw. It will be some time before we see a sunset such as this again. The light distribution towards the southern pole is quite the change. It will be quite some time before we return home. Indeed. Templeton keeps his focus on the reflection of the setting sun over the stirring waters of the ocean. There is great expectation upon us, officer. From who? Who is this benefactor of ours? That is not for you to know. Not yet. Templeton looks down, catching his reflection in the ocean surface. He looks back up at the sunset. Quite the sight. But I wouldn't linger upon it too long. We should retire for the evening. It's important the first officer be well rested. Use E to advance to the next week. So we're losing 50 fuel and 50 rations. I really don't want to do that. We can... Okay. That's going to drop our morale down by a lot. Darn it. Alright. We'll cut the fuel rations in half, but we'll keep the food and see what happens. Ship makes its last port. Sledding dogs are picked up. Scouting crew and Kurt Darling are picked up. The days are getting brighter as you move further south. Alright, so we are up to 29 crew members, and we have gotten past the first week. And I do think we're going to pause here And then next week, when we continue, we'll see where the story is going to lead and if I made a mistake or not. We'll find out. And until then, bye for now.